You're listening to the Valley Current.
Hey, how are you? You're looking very youthful there.
Thank you. Well on my way to 100.
It must be your workout routine.
Definitely helps.
So let's turn the conversation now to all of this software stuff that you're an expert at. And, you know, this notion that there's going to be this AI-based automation that's going to enable everyone to get almost immediate answers to whatever questions they put in with detailed checklists and detailed instructions on what they should do. And it's not just that AI stuff, but there's obviously thousands of apps out there that will sell you programs of one type or another. You know,
right.
I know the business. I remember I think I saw the business plan for what now is a very successful company called Noom, Noom. You've probably heard of it. You know how they came up with the name? It's the reverse of moon, Moon. They just reversed it. So they put the N first, OOM.
What's the meaning of moon, and how does that tie to fitness goals?
The moon, the moon concept for them, which I think they've adhered to, is that the moon is always present, revolving around the Earth, just like the Earth is revolving around the sun and the other planets are revolving around the sun. And so you have to realize your body has got these cycles to it that are revolving. You need a certain amount of sleep. That's just part of the cycle of being subject to gravity, subject to the physiological limits. So the moon is a constant, and you have to be aware of these different things. Like you need a certain amount of nutrition. You have to have a certain amount of water. You have to be able to have oxygen. You have to be able to breathe well while you're sleeping. People that have sleep apnea don't get as much oxygen, and that causes oxygen deficits that cause them to get sleepy during the day. So they had this concept that they wanted to have, I don't know, the reverse, what the concept was behind the reverse. They didn't want to call it moon, but they took the concept of moon, they reversed it to Noom. And I guess you could say they want you to be aware that you're subject to these cycles and you can adjust the cycles. Your brain allows you to adjust behavior, and the app is sort of there. But of course, they put coaches behind the app. So the app is acting as kind of a way to get marketing done, I guess is what you could say, for the coaches, because the coaches are essentially out there to provide additional support, presumably, I think, at an additional fee if you get beyond a certain number of cents. So it's like a marketing system where the app is sort of the marketing tool. And I don't know what you think about that. I mean, I think they've been really successful. I think their numbers are pretty big. They have
multi-billion-dollar company, no?
Right, I think so. I think they've caught on. Like they started 7-8 years ago. And I think it was just two software guys. They weren't even, it's a little bit like you. They transformed themselves from software guys into experts on human behavior and human motivation and human physiology. And they put the technology out there as kind of the lead generator, as it were.
What are my thoughts on Noom and how software plays a role into scalable digital software plays a role into health and fitness goals for the masses? Is that your question?
Because obviously you think Whoop is a pretty good monitor,
right?
But it's not doing everything, right?
Yeah,
it's just doing some things, and Noom is doing some things as well. I mean, all of these things, I guess, have a role, but you know, at some point you get overwhelmed. Like Aura Ring is doing some things, and there are some people that swear by Fitbit and the community that gets generated around a Fitbit community. I mean, there's a lot of devices out there. I think there have been more failures than successes to date. Apple believes they've got the ultimate product, but it has a screen, as you said, and that has downsides to it.
Right. You know, I feel like this is going to tie to ChatGPT and the other part of the combo and my excitement, because I feel like people get so they always ask, what's the right choice? And I think what's been missing in the conversation, even with this Noom conversation, you kind of put Noom in the same bucket as Whoop and fitness, and then my coaching program as well. And there's all these different options out there. And I think the thing that's missing is the context of what someone really needs and what type of person they are. So in my experience working with Noom, and I just went through their onboarding process a bit, they are a program that has made the closest level of coaching and accountability at a low affordable rate. So you can get part of a program, you can tell them your goal, and they're going to give you a level of a curriculum and some level of accountability and resources at an affordable rate. And that's vastly different from someone like myself that's much more hands-on, high touch, real human interaction. And there's just trade-offs there, right? I can only take on so many clients at that one-on-one rate. My rate is a lot higher. And it's just a whole different way to go through the program. The results are obviously more guaranteed with a human aspect to it, but there are trade-offs there. And I think depends on the person and what they need, their budget considerations, their pain points. I was talking to a client that I was doing something where I would send him an automated text on Mondays to make sure he logged his weight in the app. And I talked to this guy like 3 times a week. Okay. So I'm multiple times checking. And he wasn't logging the weight. And so I asked him, hey, why are you not logging the weight? I sent these follow-up messengers. And he eventually said, to be honest, Iman, the fact that I can tell it's automated just makes me say, ha. And it makes me realize that there are just certain types of people where even in a real one-on-one coaching program, the slightest sense of automation will just turn them off. Now, I'm not here to argue about the fact that Noom has over $1 billion in valuation and they're transforming lives, but they're transforming it for those that are willing to fit into that type of program. And it is a lot automated, I'm going to be honest. So I think that if you take a health and fitness person and you force them to design a program that can impact as many people as possible, and you fit that into the guardrails of software, the way Noom has done, you're going to have massive benefit for a ton of people. Because I think the biggest limitation with software is product mindset. It's like, you're just not thinking about who you're fixing. But software is, obviously, this, it's just amazing, infinite potential. So Noom, a great group of guys that clearly know health. They ask the right questions. I went through their onboarding flow and I actually stole some of their questions because they were so specific on like, what's your goal? And the minute I went through that onboarding flow, I said, these guys have the sauce. They're asking the right questions. And these are the questions they need to ask. Like, do you have a wedding coming up? How would you celebrate when you finish this goal? Like just little details that like people don't even think about who they are. And yeah, I think Noom's great. I think
Noom has a book out. And it's also available in audio. And I've been listening to the book because I haven't bought the app. And I saw the book. They just came out with a book and it's available on tape. And they tell a bit of the story of how they design the app and the way they think about behavior change and how to motivate behavior change. And it had some of the very basic principles about nutrition and exercise and so on. And then you're right, I'm kind of very interested in ChatGPT. So what I just did, and I'll put it up on the screen because I'm doing this in real time. It's not scripted in that way. I put up, what is the best approach? I'm not saying this is me, but you can imagine it's on my mind. For an older obese male, I don't think I'm obese, but let's use hyperbole, in the United States to reduce body weight from 230 pounds to under 195. So that's basically a solid, 30 plus pounds, 40 pound drop. And to reduce body mass index from say 30 to 25, I think you would argue it probably should be even lower than that, while also being able to enjoy life with his spouse, his colleagues, his employees without accepting. I just did a run-on sentence that I was typing as we were talking. Without too much time in the gym or otherwise exercising, and give me the pros and cons. And it came back with this essay, right?
Right.
Obesity. This is like 30 seconds worth of typing produced probably what would take anyone in the copywriting business a few hours to write up. Obesity is a significant health concern, blah, blah, blah. And it said, number one, dietary changes. And you would agree that's probably the number one thing, right? It's coming back with the number one thing. And it says pros. Making dietary changes doesn't require too much time in the gym. That's true. Or other forms of exercise, right? But a nutritionist, dietitian can help. Cons, some people find it challenging to adhere to a strict dietary guideline. And then it goes through number two, exercise, pros, cons, medical interventions, which we haven't even talked about, but there are people, one of my friends, in fact, I was kind of interested in getting your commentary. There are all these obesity drugs. And one of my friends has decided, and I don't think he's really that fat. I don't think maybe because he's short. He's like 5'7" and probably weighs over 220. He wants to lose like 50 pounds. So he's taking these new drugs that have been released, that are available, that I guess have become the rage, and they're selling like hot
diabetes, right? It's diabetes.
Yeah.
He get a prescription though. How did he get that?
He got a prescription. He
doesn't have diabetes.
No, he doesn't. They're prescribing for weight loss, and I guess doctors are doing it, and there are even telemedicine doctors that are doing it. So it's becoming like mass market. There have been there's some evidence of heart attacks that get generated from use of this stuff. But I saw him today, and he's already lost 12 pounds in like a week or 2 weeks. Like, that's really fast weight loss. He says it's amazing. It's
10 pounds in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I want to say like 10,
almost
12
too
pounds.
fast.
Too fast, right?
Yeah, no, if you go too fast, you were just saying, right? We're going at 100 miles an hour. And if one person slows down, we all crash like the Daytona. It's like, I think another question we'd ask ChatGPT is losing 10 pounds in 2 weeks so healthy?
I mean, ChatGPT tries to avoid giving medical advice, and they do all these disclaimers. In this case, they didn't actually give a disclaimer. Now, maybe the disclaimer is going to come at the end. They started just by saying
so general, so they can't get in trouble for just talking conceptually like this. Right.
Yeah, I mean, they're pulling data presumably based on databases of information that have, lines of reasoning, and then they're assembling it in pretty decent English. It's simple, declarative, it's organized, it has pros and cons as requested. But you would say, yeah, this is sort of scratching the surface of the three different approaches. You can either decide you're going to make diet changes, you're going to exercise. Obviously, doing both is probably better. And then medical interventions maybe are a last resort. He could not get the weight loss to happen, he said, because he enjoys eating too much. And he also said that he has a huge appetite. And I guess these drugs, although they don't mention, or they do say
suppress your appetite.
Yes. Yeah. Appetite suppressors. You never recommend the drug approach in your approach, right? You never say to people, well, maybe we have to get a doctor involved and see if there's a prescription that you can get to one of these obesity medications.
I have yet to work with someone where if they put the work in, and it's just three things, it's just calorie deficit, eat enough protein, exercise. If you do those three things, just like the things listed above, you don't get the results. So every time someone says, I tried it, it didn't work, I always find out they actually didn't try it, and they're not the best judge of that. They didn't quantify it. So they're left at a level of feeling they did something. And anytime you say, I feel something, it's too abstract. So, and if you're not willing to get past feeling and tracking something, you can't measure results. And if I was to do that, then yeah, I would get a health professional. I'm not a doctor. So I tell my clients that, and if something is aloof, so be it. Now, obviously, when I'm an online fitness coach, I can only do so much tracking. I don't live with you. I don't share a bed with you. So you could technically cheat the program. But in my experience with myself and with others. That's the case. Now, can I make one more comment about what you wrote above? Because I actually have another.
Absolutely. I'll go back to it. I just typed in based on the foregoing, which I think is what the unique aspect of this ChatGPT is. It contextually remembers the topic. So it's not like Google where it forgets, well, you were asking for search about nutrition and now you're asking for, like, Google doesn't really nest the searching. These guys kind of nest the knowledge that's coming back. So you could theoretically get deeper and deeper and get, so I said, based on the foregoing, and we'll go back to the top.
I just got goosebumps. I love what you said is exactly what I wanted to talk about. It's, people get concerned that, you know, this idea of ChatGPT stealing jobs, are we all screwed? What's humans do anymore? And what you just talked about is the beauty of it. It's like you just talked about a plan and it gave you a very high level plan. And to be honest, if you scroll up a bit, most kids my age, because we have a shorter attention span than you and your generation, it's just a product. If I read this, I'm going to speak for my generation. We'd say, yeah, no crap, dietary, exercise. I've read it all. I kind of like scroll through it, and then that'd be the end of it. But what you did is exactly the excitement of how to really utilize this technology. You critically saw something and then you re-engaged. And then you had a further conversation to press it. And now it becomes a dialogue. And this is the benefit. This is what excites me. Because let's see what it says now based on the question you asked.
Yeah, the question I asked is based on the foregoing, what is the best dietary formula for obese males? My wording was wrong. An obese male who is in his 60s to produce a daily calorie deficit. And they sort of parrot the best dietary formula for an obese male in his 60s to produce a daily calorie deficit will depend on his specific needs and preferences. However, in general, one, reduce calorie intake, ideally by 500 to 1,000 calories a day to produce a weight loss of 1 or 2 pounds a week. That sounds kind of aggressive to me, but maybe you'd say, no, that's pretty much right on, right?
It's just telling you the math. It's not recommending anything, but the math is correct. That if you were to hypothetically eat 500 to 1,000 calories per day, it will translate to 1 or 2 pounds. I would stick more to 500 just for sustainability purposes. But yes. But now what's so interesting is I see another open question in that first response. We can go even deeper. What's kind of a question that you think naturally you'd want to ask from that first number?
Well, I want to know kind of, should I start slowly or should I be more aggressive? Like, what's the right sort of flight plan, right? Some people go, I remember my mom, whenever there was a big event, like a wedding, and she wanted to fit into some party dress, she would go on a crash diet. She would go on what she called a starvation diet. Now, she did live, in fact, interesting coincidence, she died last year, but she would have been 92 years old today. Today's her birthday, February 16th. And she used to go on these crash diets all the time, and she would zigzag in her weight. And sometimes she'd look really thin, and sometimes she wouldn't look thin. It was terrible. I mean, my dad used to tell her, "You're hurting your health." Now, he lived to 90. She lived to 92. But she's amazing. She gained weight, lost weight regularly, probably 3 to 4 times a year. She would go up and down, up and down, up and down. But I want to know what's the right approach.
Yeah.
A soft takeoff or aggressive takeoff, or what is it? What's the best way to do this?
But I think that's a great consideration. I think also one that number one didn't even mention is it says a calorie deficit. It's essential to consume fewer calories than the body burns. Whose body? My body. So it's like, how do I know how many calories I need? I think that's also another question. It's like, well, calorie deficit's a concept, but my calorie deficit's a prescription.
Right. So I'm going to type that in. And you're saying they should bring up a table.
Maybe. Yeah. And instead of how would the obese male, why not make it personal? Imagine this is your coach. Imagine this is a replacement of me. Let's actually put it in the perspective, because I'm a coach and I'm excited that this thing can offer support and I'm not making money on it. So it's something interesting here.
Right.
How would I, and you can just say, I guess the whole time, if it's conceptual, you could have just said I, if you had said I earlier, because then I would have known.
I don't know if it deals with I mean, I guess I'll try that and see what happens. By the way, this is the paid version.
Nice.
This is not the freebie version. The freebie version often gets interrupted because it's too busy. This is the actual paid version, so it stays on, and it's faster. So they're saying you have to determine your basal metabolic rates. And now it's getting pretty detailed, right? Your BMR is the number of calories that actually burns. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you would talk about, but you would actually help with measurements, right? To estimate BMR based on age, sex, height, weight, because you take all that data. You take all that input from your clients, right? You say, how tall are you? What's your age, and so on. I imagine there's some tables. I don't know if Noom does the same thing, if the app.
It's just a formula. You take variables X, Y, Z, and R, you put it in and it gives you a number. This thing is doing it at the same time. I'm trying to think, what would be the next step here? I want to treat this like, could this be a coach, and what's holding it back from being a coach? Right. Yeah. How do we track this thing? How do we make, I guess another question is, okay, I know my number now.
It's coming back with a list. I've asked it what apps are available on smartphone to track calories. Now you got to wonder, this could be an advertising, but I don't think it's doing advertising. I don't think anyone's paying to be listed, right? I guess they could. I haven't even heard of any of these products. MyFitnessPal.
That's the biggest one.
Oh, is it? MyFitnessPal is the biggest one?
Yes.
Have you heard of these? Fat Secret, Calorie, spelled Calorry, Yazio?
I haven't heard of Yazio, but that's probably why it's number 5.
So you're saying these are known. These are known apps that are available, right?
Right.
And they allow you to barcode scan even your food, like literally code. Wow. So they're trying to
make the processed packaged food, right?
Yeah. So they're trying to make it a little more convenient for tracking, right?
Yes.
Do you
don't have to have a spreadsheet.
Do you use any of these?
I used to, but now I have my own fitness app that has, for my clients, it has working out, it has a calorie tracker in it, it has messaging. It's a one-stop shop. But yeah, there's a number of different calorie tracker apps. All right. Essentially, the idea is pretty similar. Define the constraint, have a database of foods with pre-calculated calories and proteins. The real pain point that no app can solve is that your clients have to do the work, which is to log it. Now, when I go back to your friend's example, he kind of just dismissed any type of solution in this direction because he said, I love food too much.
Right.
It doesn't work. And what that closes the conversation to is even the possibility that there are foods that keep you more satiated and there are foods that keep you less satiated. It's a blanket statement and it really closes the conversation. What I obsess about is I have my database of the most satiating, high volume, low calorie foods. Now, most people don't think about food that way, but I'd much rather explore that than to prescribe a pill and not look in that direction. Because one, you're learning about food to a different degree. It's kind of an art. It's fun. It's creative. And then the whole community can kind of get involved and be like, did you know in Chinese culture, there's this one type of plant that looks like pasta, but it actually is 2 calories per serving? I'm like, that's insane. And it's a learning process. I think that's part of life, owning your health is understanding your health.
Right. So you're looking at nutrition dense, but calorie limited. So probably kale trumps romaine lettuce, right? That sort of thing. Where there's
right. And then even further than that, why not air fry your kale to turn it into kale chips so you can eat it slower, get that salty chip feeling that you always like, and get more bang for your buck? How do we make kale better?
Okay. So you try to bring into the story, there's foods that will be nutritionally dense and high volume where you'll feel like you're eating a lot or more, and yet it will be lower calorie than what you could otherwise be eating. And so you make choices on that.
Right. And I think you would eventually have arrived at the same discovery yourself if you just kept these questions going. I'm sure of it. And that's why I'm so excited about ChatGPT, because the bottleneck is us and our questions. Because if we go back to the beginning of the conversation, we both agreed calorie deficit is the way to go. So then I feel like naturally the next question is, well, how do I eat more for less calories?
Okay, let me put that in.
It's a natural second question. But no one thinks about asking it.
Let's see what it does.
I don't know.
This is a pretty short question.
Yeah. Let's see.
Are starting to realize that the longer you make the question, the better is the answer. But this might work because contextually we're so far down the sort of if then else. So eating more with fewer calories involves making food choices that are lower in calories but still filling and satisfying. Here are strategies, right? High in fiber.
Right.
Low calorie, nutrition dense, increase water intake. You would probably agree with that. Use smaller plates. Okay. Practice mindful eating. Okay. So you would say someone could get a good overview, I suppose, by interacting with a ChatGPT, but you have to be thinking through the questions, right? And at some level, they're not going to get the personalized coaching because there's sort of, there's no human being at the other end. This is all automation generating this. But I'm curious, when you think about whether this kind of system will eventually be added to your system, your intake system. Like you're a software guy, so this stuff is open source, right? You can use this as a back end. It's available, and you could put a front end on your questionnaire in a way that makes it more interactive, because then it's going to extract more data, presumably, like it's going to extract more data about who the potential or actual client is. So it's doing some of that front end work for you, right? That
80%. I think that's a great next level. But what I'm really excited about using ChatGPT in my service is right now, ChatGPT, the responsibility still falls on you to ask the right questions of it. And I think we're going to have a massive shift when ChatGPT knows how to ask the right questions of you, to guide you to use it. Because when someone jumps on my programmer service, I would like, my best value has always been to throw questions back at my clients. I rarely answer their first question because it's not the right question.
Right.
And the art of asking the right question, it's something we talked about on our last podcast, is still an untouched art. And I don't think ChatGPT with its nesting has amazing potential. But if we don't get better as humans to ask the right questions, or ChatGPT doesn't take that responsibility, then we're still stuck at the first level of understanding.
Right.
So
you could argue the one novel thing that ChatGPT may do is cause people to be more curious and to frame more and better questions over time. Like, people don't use Google with respect to the writing of questions. They just put a few keywords in. Like they say, want to lose weight or something like that. They don't interact as though this is a counseling session. They don't do that. Whereas you can argue this generates, I mean, they don't do graphics. Unfortunately, they're really limited to just, right? You would imagine they could find some public domain graphics to put up that would say, well, if you're 60 years old, this is, and you're 6'4" tall, this is what the graph looks like for you. They don't do that yet, but you've got to imagine that must be coming, right? Because humans like to see visuals. Newspapers are photographs and other sort of graphics that are out there with all the text. And obviously some newspapers have more graphics and more photographs than they do text. But in general,
I'd say why even stop that? Why stop at images though? Why don't we use subsets of videos?
right. Well, that's the next thing, right? And you could argue you have a whole video library, some of which is on YouTube, that has some very funny aspects to it. It's quite entertaining. And you could say you could have for your business something that aids people in kind of getting to know who you are and what it is that you do before they even sign up, right? They can get enough knowledge. It's like your marketing system is really on YouTube, but it doesn't have a shell around it that's an interactive shell of question and answer leads you to the right videos. Now, if I ask it about, give me the top 10 YouTube videos that can explain weight loss, I don't think it gives me that. I mean, I'll ask.
No, it doesn't. I doubt it. I don't even know if it's connected. And also it's trained on like a data set from like 3 years ago or something. So the information could be.
I'll just say weight loss. Let's leave exercise out of it. Wow. It's providing providing the links, but it's providing the titles, the science of weight.
I wonder
how to lose weight according to your body type. I mean, I don't know why it's not providing the links, but you can do the searching, right? The 7-minute workout says actually works by Brightside. 10 Easy Ways to Lose Weight by Dr. Oz. Okay. The Truth About Weight Loss by TED Talks. I'm going to ask it.
Can you ask it, how did you determine what's top? Tell me your heuristic.
Well, let's find out at first. Can you provide the actual links on YouTube to the foregoing videos? Let's see what it does to that. Or I say, please provide. I'll be more commanding. Please provide. Because it's like a research assistant, right? Because this is saving search time.
So much time.
Sure, here are the links.
Oh.
Wow. Now there's value add, right? Because it's providing the link.
Yeah, massive.
And now you can say, I'm going to take a pause here and start watching these links and extract some data from each of these links. Now, why it didn't do that in the first instance is beyond me, right?
I guess because we weren't specific with our request, which you were saying, the longer it is, the better the response.
Right.
So the next question I'd feel like is, if we go back to the 2 questions above, you said the top videos. Now, what is ChatGPT's interpretation of the word top? Is that views? Comments? Is it transformations following the viewed video in 30 minutes after watching it? I'm not sure.
I don't think they're going to give us the story. They're going to say that's a trade secret.
Really? Let's see.
I think so. We'll see. I selected these videos based on popularity, relevance, and overall quality of information. It apologized, saying, I apologize if my previous response was unclear. That's pretty.
Holy crap. The intern is like it's about to lose its job.
I mean, you can imagine driving or having a self-driving car and having ChatGPT with voice recognition telling you, going back and forth and having an interactive discussion as it builds its file, right? So that when you get to your destination, you've got the file, right? During your travel time.
Jack, I actually haven't even heard of that application. That's beautiful. Imagine you're driving, instead of a podcast, you can like have a conversation with this sentient being to have your reports ready for you when you get to work.
That's coming. I mean, that's where this is headed. I mean, look, Amazon has Alexa, and people do use Alexa inside their cars. Apple has Siri. People do use Siri inside their cars. Google has OK Google. People do actually use that stuff inside their cars, but they're not using it in a way that is interactively pulling knowledge into a session, and that session is creating a file like a dossier, and that dossier is enabling the next level of research for the science of weight loss, the how to lose weight, everything that's listed there, right? I mean, the other benefit is you can cut and paste. Like I said, please provide top videos, the top videos YouTube bad English, provide the top videos on YouTube that provide information about weight loss. And we could say the same thing about exercise, right? We could say, let's find out what it says about that. Provide top videos on YouTube that can provide information about exercise. And I'll say this time, and include the specific YouTube links. So try to get all of that in and see what it does with it. How to start work. Oh, okay. So now it actually took that and it's doing the summary, and it's also including the links in the single consolidated answer, really 2 questions in that query, and it's coming back with both. So I think this is impressing you. It's impressing me. This is all non-scripted. I've not done this before. I just wondered what it would do. But it is providing a lot of data, apparently stopping at 7 numbered items. In some cases, it stops at 5. So I'm going to take this file and forward it to you by email so that you can see the value of what's here, and then think about, because I think there's a benefit to your business because you're a software guy. You could actually take all this information and imagine how this becomes your marketing assistant, right? To some degree, for your front end.
100%. I think what's so interesting is this is such valuable data. The only question is, what are the questions that potential prospects and clients of mine have? And I'm so far in my health journey that I think the thing I need the most help with is a lot of people to just sit down with me and ask these type of questions, and then I could use a combination of video and ChatGPT to help give responses.
Well, people are asking you questions all day long. So you just have to have kind of something that's recording or otherwise capturing. Like if you capture just the way we're capturing this podcast, and then I'm going to send you the file, because I'm going to send you the podcast file, and I'm going to send you the translation file that turns the text into the audio into text. You can do that on a daily basis with your client's permission, and I would assume that they'd be helpful to your overall programming effort to the extension of what you've already built, right? Because you've already built a bunch of stuff.
I have a ton of videos already. You're saying I could transcribe them into text, feed them through ChatGPT, and then reword the answers on my site.
Yes. And have a front end tool that enables people to say, wow, he's differentiated the manner in which he does his marketing and his client acquisition in a way that is that scales. I mean, I don't know what you do when you get thousands of new clients as a result of this. I guess you have to go to a franchise model or something. I mean, you'd have to do something to kind of get a support network going, because there's only so much time in the day. But I would assume that people would see it as a big differentiator, because right now I don't know of any trainer that because you have the unique fact that you're a software guy, so you could turn this stuff into an interactive session that enables people. You see where I'm going with this, right? Because most
I mean, imagine there's like a front page that ask me anything. You ask any question you want, and if I've categorized and logged my material, transcribed it, I can then deliver you the right answer immediately, and then say, hey, if you want to talk more, schedule a call with me.
Right. And to me, that's this is the whole idea of what I call intelligence augmented, instead of AI, IA. I think these tools are much more valuable as augmenting your intelligence. And you have the huge advantage because you know how to use computers and software to augment various things that are part of the process that you would say most people don't really get. You get. And so that's what got me down the path of saying, I think that ChatGPT is going to be a game changer for even people that are doing what are otherwise very hands-on things with people, like very, very specific, personalized things, because ChatGPT is going to help your education process and your qualification process with those individuals. In fact, probably if those individuals engage more in ChatGPT, they're more likely to be motivated to succeed. Like the fact that they spent a half hour with ChatGPT, your ChatGPT, what I'm calling like your system, almost like, you'd have to come up with the right brand. I don't know what that would look like. Maybe it would be called, weight loss or something, right? Or chat.health, right?
Right.
Something. But the ChatGPT is acting as a big promoter of all of the knowledge that you are extending successfully. And that's what I think a lot of people are starting to realize. It's an enabling technology, right? It's not just a toy, and it's not just
it's also not a job. It's not this end of the world scenario. I think the world is going to shift, but I think we shift with it.
Yeah, I mean, look,
this is so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened. I remember, because I was there at the time that VisiCalc, most people don't realize, that was the first spreadsheet. That was the first software spreadsheet on the Apple II computer. I was there and I saw everyone's eyes light up that, hey, you can actually change a cell and it bubbles into this ginormous recalculation right in front of your face. Wow, that's not the way computers have worked up to now. Up to now, you put inputs and then it puts out a report. And if the report isn't right, you go back to the inputs and you run another batch job. It was much more behind the scenes. It was not as visual. Well, ChatGPT has brought to text what VisiCalc did with numbers. So you could type in a text query, and all of a sudden, you're not getting back just a huge number of websites that you have to try to, sort through. You're getting back some real valuable information that includes essentially a collection of knowledge. Now, it may not be expert opinion yet, but over time, you could see where this potentially goes, right? I mean, this goes in a direction.
That is so exciting. I feel like this conversation expanded further what I think is even possible with it right now. This is awesome. Thanks, Jack.
Well, I think what you're going to find is your software juices are going to start flowing in the direction of, I got to get myself organized towards what can ChatGPT do for my business, and do it in a way that is not horrifying to my clients, but is welcoming to my clients, and might include like little clips of video that you would be providing in the course of the back and forth chat, that all of a sudden they're kind of feeling like you've scaled yourself in a way that is magical. So I've got to believe that that's going to happen over time. And you might be the first person that does it. And because the ChatGPT is just like another enabler, and then people are going to extend it. Like lawyers are starting to extend it.
Right. And also different industries are extending it. I think naturally the question comes to me is, I want to understand the architecture of how ChatGPT organizes data. Can I label and categorize my data? And then what's the customer experience on how they'd ask a question? How would ChatGPT know what to show it? And I think that's amazing, because I just record the calls with my clients. I get new questions all the time. You're just invigorating. I can use those in a new way. It's already there.
It's got you fired up, which is what I want to do. That's good. I'm glad you weren't resistant. So I want to, maybe in a few weeks, want to hear from you where this took you in your thinking, and where it went, because I got to believe with all expertise you have in software and now all the expertise you have in human motivation and physiology, you're going to find all sorts of ideas here that are going to be quite interesting going forward.
Yeah. And I think last thing I want to talk about, we're talking about marketing. The last chances, if anyone's listening to your podcast, I'd love to open the door to them reaching out and chatting with me.
Yeah. So give them your phone number and your website and your email.
And my social.
Yeah, what is it? You're on Instagram in a big way, right?
Yes. Instagram, my name's Iman. So it's EAMONIAN. Same thing with my domain. You can go to EAMONIAN, Imanian.com. That's really how you can find me across the board and message me. And I'm happy to chat. It might be my chat bot by the time.
Yeah, I know. It'd be great if you put something up there right away. It'd be a great differentiator, and really would probably be like, wow, this guy's figured it out. I mean, you're like 1 in a million of people that have huge software expertise, master's degree, huge credentials, huge set. And you also are an expert in human behavior, so in training. So to me, you're in a unique position to leverage this technology in a way that I think a lot of trainers would be beholden to you. Maybe you turn it into $1 billion licensing business. Maybe we've created the next McDonald's for training here.
Right. Right. Jack and Iman inspired.
Great. Talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Tune in next time on The Valley Current.